Sequence primary ignition.
Chewie, get us out of here!
Fire the emergency booster engines!
We'll be safe enough once we make the jump to hyperspace.
At last, we will review more news on the podcast.
Don't strap yourselves in. I'm going to make a jump to light speed.
Welcome to Star Wars Launchpad, a new kind of podcast experience brought to you by Star Wars Escape Pod. We call this a flashcast. Using the power of AI, we bring you an immersive experience to explore Star Wars news. Full AI disclosure, some details may not be fully accurate. Either way, we hope you enjoy the experimental deep dive ahead with your AI hosts, Dak and Mia.
How does a 1932 Mercedes carburetor,
Right, yeah.
a World War II Panzer tank, and, a 50-year-old green baby hold the secret to the next half century of the biggest sci-fi franchise in history?
It sounds like the setup to a really weird joke, honestly.
It totally does. But you are about to find out exactly how they connect. So welcome to a brand new episode of Star Wars Launchpad.
Yes, welcome.
And as always, this deep dive into the source material is brought to you by Star Wars Escape Pod. We are just so thrilled you're here with us today.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at the current state of Star Wars, I feel like it's a lot like looking at a starship's hyperdrive engine with the casing completely ripped off.
Oh, that is a great way to put it. Just wires everywhere.
Exactly. There are all these massive, intricate moving parts spinning at light speed, and, occasional sparks are just flying everywhere.
Yeah, maybe a small fire in the corner.
Right. But despite the chaos, there's this overwhelming sense that we are hurtling toward a massive galaxy-shifting destination.
And, it is the perfect time to be looking under the hood of that hyperdrive, because the destination that's approaching is that massive 2026 and 2027 window.
It really is.
It's shaping up to be arguably the most consequential, high-stakes period for the franchise in decades. I mean, everything currently in production is pointing directly at those 2 years.
Which makes our mission for today's episode pretty clear, I think. We are taking a stack of recent dispatches from the Star Wars universe, right?
Yep, the latest news.
From these massive theatrical jumps to the most meticulous animation details. And we're going to try to understand how this franchise is simultaneously honoring a very heavy legacy.
A 50-year legacy.
Exactly. Honoring that while also trying to pass the torch to a brand new generation. So we've got a lot to unpack.
Oh, we really do.
We're going to cover the ticketing chaos for the 2027 celebration in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We've got the big screen leap for the Mandalorian Grogu.
Which is huge.
Massive. Plus some really big casting news for Ahsoka Season 2 and a behind-the-scenes look at the brilliant and frankly slightly mad craftsmanship of the animated series Mole Shadow Lord.
Yeah, that animation stuff is wild. But to really grasp the gravity of what Lucasfilm is attempting here, I think we have to establish the context of that 2027 milestone first.
Yeah, set the stage for us.
So April of 2027 actually marks the 50th anniversary of A New Hope.
50 years. It's hard to even wrap my head around.
Right, half a century of Star Wars. And to commemorate something of that magnitude, Star Wars Celebration is returning to the United States for the first time since 2022.
Finally.
And it's hitting the Los Angeles Convention Center, which is, a venue with a capacity of around 70,000 people.
The location alone is loaded with so much subtext. I mean, it is right down the street from the soon-to-open George Lucas Museum of Narrative Art.
Which is just perfect timing.
Right. The synergy of having the 50th anniversary convention literally physically adjacent to the Creator's Legacy Museum, it's unbelievable.
It really is. And this event will feature the first post-Episode 9X film, Star Wars. Starfighter. Plus, it marks the second full year of Dave Filoni and Lin-Wen Brennan officially running the company as co-presidents.
So, on paper, this is basically the ultimate victory lap for them.
Oh, totally. On paper, it's a dream. But the reality of fans actually getting in the door proved to be a completely different story.
Yeah, let's talk about last Wednesday, because tickets went on sale, and it was just an absolute nightmare for the fan base.
It was rough. The sheer scale of demand simply broke the infrastructure. I mean, tickets sold out in about 6 hours.
Wow.
But the sellout itself really wasn't the main issue. I think everyone going into this new 50th anniversary celebration in LA was going to reach capacity almost instantly.
Yeah, nobody was shocked by the sellout.
Exactly. The real pain point was the Gauntlet fans had to survive just to, hand over their money.
Oh man, the virtual queue.
Right. We are talking about catastrophic site crashes, rolling 404 error pages, and yeah, the psychology of that virtual queue.
It's terrifying.
You're placed on this screen where your entire fate is dictated by a little digital stick person slowly walking across a green line.
I have visceral memories of staring at that little stick person, just, praying my Wi-Fi doesn't blink for even a second.
It creates this profound sense of helplessness.
It really does.
Yeah.
But the technical glitches weren't even the core of the outrage, were they?
No, not at all.
The real boiling point was the ticket limit. Because ReedPop, they're the company managing the convention logistics, they set a limit of 20 tickets per person.
20?
And the internet just erupted almost instantly. Fans looked at this massive number and immediately assumed it was some, dark Palpatine-level scheme to actively facilitate ticket scalpers.
Which I get why people thought that. From the outside, allowing one single person to buy 20 tickets seems like you are just handing the inventory directly over to the secondary market.
Right. It feels like you're inviting scalpers in.
It looks completely indefensible until you look at the underlying mathematics and the reality of how these multi-day conventions actually operate.
Okay, break that math down for us because I think a lot of people are still really confused by this.
Sure. So Lucasfilm had a very specific logical reason for pushing back against a lower ticket limit. Let's just run a realistic scenario.
Okay.
Imagine you are a fan trying to attend with just 3 friends or family members.
So a group of 4 people total.
Exactly, a group of 4. Now, the highly coveted 4-day all-access passes are always the first to vanish. They're gone instantly.
Right.
So if those are gone by the time your little stick person finally makes it through the queue, your only remaining option is to buy individual day passes.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, you have to buy them for every person in your group for every single day of the convention. So 4 people needing passes for 4 separate days.
4 times 4.
That instantly equals 16 individual tickets sitting in your cart.
Wow. Okay, so if ReedPop had bowed to the pressure and set a strict limit of, say, 4 tickets per transaction,
they would have structurally banned families from attending together. That's wild. You'd literally be telling a parent that they can't bring their spouse and 2 kids unless every single one of them gets on a separate laptop, braves the queue independently, and just gets incredibly lucky.
Right. And Lucasfilm actually confirmed this. They said that preserving the ability for families and friend groups to purchase together was the primary driver behind setting that 20-ticket threshold.
Okay, the math definitely makes sense when you frame it like that.
And furthermore, ReedPop has stated they are implementing new oversight protocols. They're going to monitor known resellers, and they've even suggested they will reclaim bulk purchases that get flagged as scalping.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, they plan to redistribute those reclaimed tickets through customer service to fans who missed out.
Okay, so the math for a family of 4 absolutely works out. But I gotta push back a little here. Doesn't that mathematical logic still kind of throw the solo fan completely under the bus?
Well, it definitely makes it harder for them, yeah. Because if you are just an individual trying to go to this convention, and you are randomly placed in the queue behind a block of people who are legally scooping up 16 to 20 tickets at a time, your chances just evaporate exponentially faster.
That's true.
It feels like a system that fundamentally punishes the individual in favor of the group.
I hear that. It really is a brutal reality of supply and demand in modern fandom spaces. The logistics of fairness are almost impossible to perfect when the demand is this unprecedented.
Yeah, that's fair.
The cultural footprint of Star Wars after 50 years is just simply larger than any physical structure on Earth can accommodate.
It's just too big.
Right. There will inevitably be thousands of diehard fans who cannot get in, and it's not because of a flawed system, but because of pure physical limitations.
Which really makes you wonder what those 70,000 lucky people who did survive the queue are actually going to see when they sit down in those convention halls in LA.
Oh, it's going to be massive.
Because we actually got a really big preview of that 2027 slate during the recent Disney Upfront presentation.
We did, yeah.
And for anyone unfamiliar with the industry terms, an upfront is essentially this massive, highly produced pitch to advertisers. It's where networks and studios drop their biggest bombshells to secure commercial funding.
And Disney definitely did not hold back.
No, they didn't.
Rosario Dawson actually took the stage, accompanied by a fully functional, incredibly grumpy Chopper droid.
And I love that they brought Chopper out.
It was great. And she dropped the official word. Ahsoka Season 2 is slated for Disney Plus in early 2027.
That's huge.
And show creator Dave Filoni is already on record promising bigger battles and higher stakes, which is honestly a monumental claim considering how galactic the scale of the first season was.
The stakes are definitely rising.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at who Filoni's bringing back to the board for this season.
Right. The returning ensemble is just expansive.
Run through the list for us.
Well, you have Natasha Lee Bordizzo reprising her role as Sabine, Lars Mikkelsen returning as Grand Admiral Thrawn,
Chills, honestly.
Iman Esfandi is back as Ezra, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera, and Ivana Sakno as Shinhati. And of course, we are also seeing the return of Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker.
Always incredible to see Hayden back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the announcement that really sent shockwaves through the fandom was the confirmation of Rory McCann joining the cast.
Yes. He is stepping into the role of Balin Skull, which is just, it's a massive, heavy decision for the studio to make.
It really is.
Following the tragic passing of Ray Stevenson, who originated Balin and gave him this just unbelievable, weary gravity, the community was deeply divided on what should happen next.
They really were.
Do you retire the character out of respect for the actor, or do you recast to finish the narrative?
And the choice to recast here, especially with someone possessing the physical presence and acting pedigree of Rory McCann, it reveals a lot about Lucasfilm's commitment to their long-term storytelling architecture.
How so?
Well, retiring Balin might have been the easier, less controversial choice in the short term. But Ray Stevenson laid down really complex, foundational groundwork for a character who is seeking a power that predates both the Jedi and the Sith.
Right.
And by recasting, the studio is choosing to honor that foundation. They're ensuring the specific story Stevenson helped build actually reaches its intended conclusion, rather than leaving his final work as this unresolved loose end.
That makes a lot of sense. It signals that the overarching narrative has to survive. But I have to admit, looking at that cast list makes me a bit nervous as a fan.
Nervous why?
Well, you have Anakin Skywalker, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Ahsoka Tano, Ezra Bridger. Isn't there a severe danger of small universe syndrome happening here?
Ah, I see what you mean.
Like, it is a galaxy containing billions of star systems, but it often feels like a town of 50 people where all the heavy hitters just happen to keep bumping into each other at the same local cantina.
Yeah, that is the eternal tightrope walk of the entire franchise, isn't it? But the mechanism they use to justify this is what you could call archetypal convergence.
Archetypal convergence. Okay, unpack that.
In the mythology of Star Wars, the Force acts as a literal physical gravity.
Okay.
So when there is a massive disruption like Thrawn returning from an entirely different galaxy, it creates a metaphysical epicenter.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Right. The major players, the legacy characters who are attuned to those shifts in the Force, they are naturally drawn into the same orbit. It isn't coincidence.
So it's not just lazy writing.
Exactly. It is the mechanics of their universe pulling them toward the central conflict.
So it's less about them just coincidentally bumping into each other and more about the universe dragging them to the same battlefield.
Precise.
That actually makes the convergence feel a lot more deliberate. But, while Ahsoka is clearly being positioned to anchor the streaming side of the 2027 anniversary, the next week, May 22, 2026, Star Wars officially returns to theaters with The Mandalorian and Grogu.
And this represents a monumental shift in strategy for them.
It's massive.
You have Jon Favreau in the director's chair, producing alongside Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, and Ian Bryce. Ludwig Göransson is returning to score the film.
Thank goodness.
And most crucially, this production is shot entirely for IMAX.
Wow. A IMAX.
They are taking characters that were born on television screens and designing their next chapter from the ground up for the largest cinematic canvas in existence.
That is such a huge leap.
It fundamentally changes everything. The pacing, the visual framing, the scale of the action, all of it has to be bigger.
And the cast they have assembled to fill that IMAX screen is just wild.
It really is.
Obviously, Pedro Pascal is back in the Beskar armor as Din Djarin, but you also have the sci-fi legend herself, Sigourney Weaver, joining the universe as Colonel Ward.
Sigourney Weaver in Star Wars is just a dream come true.
Right. And then, in a piece of casting that honestly still feels like a fever dream to me, Jeremy Allen White is playing Rada the Hutt.
Yes. Yeah. He is taking on the role of Jabba's son, who is now fully grown and clearly carving out his own space in the galactic underworld.
It's going to be so weird and amazing.
And Favreau has been incredibly transparent about his directorial goal for this film. He wants to recreate the exact sensory and emotional experience of seeing A New Hope in the summer of 1977.
That's a high bar.
It is, but he wants to tailor it for a totally new generation of moviegoers. He's leaning heavily into the creature feature aesthetic.
What does that mean exactly?
He wants the audience to feel that dense, lived-in weirdness. You know, the exact same feeling you got stepping into the Mos Eisley Cantina for the first time or watching the bizarre creatures hanging out in Jabba's palace.
Oh, I love that.
But beneath all that spectacle, the core thematic engine of the movie is really about parenthood.
Which brings us right back to the dynamic between our two title characters. Because Din Djarin's relationship with Grogu is really shifting now. Grogu is coming of age, and Din is having to trust him with actual responsibility.
Which is terrifying for any parent.
It feels a lot like that milestone when you finally have to hand the car keys over to your teenager. Except, you know, your teenager is a 50-year-old green alien who can casually lift mud horns with his mind.
Just minor differences.
Right. But let me play the cynic for just a moment here.
Go for it.
Is this theatrical jump actually a narrative necessity? Or is Lucasfilm simply looking at the most marketable, undeniably cute asset in their entire portfolio and throwing him onto an IMAX screen to guarantee a massive box office return?
I mean, the merchandising power of Grogu is undeniably a factor, of course.
Yeah.
But if you look at the biological and narrative mechanics of the Star Wars universe, there really is a profound necessity at play here.
Explain that.
Consider the lifespan of Grogu's species. They live for centuries. I mean, Yoda lived to be 900 years old. So this film isn't just about giving the audience 2 hours of cute antics and soup sipping. Favreau has explicitly stated that a parent's ultimate job is preparing the next generation to step into their shoes.
Okay, I see.
By putting Grogu's coming-of-age story on the biggest possible stage, Lucasfilm isn't just entertaining us right now. They are meticulously preparing the single character who could conceivably bridge the franchise for the next 50 years of real-world storytelling.
Wow.
Grogu is the literal vehicle for the future.
When you frame it as laying the groundwork for the year 2077, the scale of an IMAX screen feels completely justified.
It really does.
You need a massive canvas for a character who is going to essentially outlive everyone else currently on the board.
Exactly.
But, you know, that deep, meticulous care for legacy isn't just confined to the billion-dollar live-action blockbusters.
Not at all.
Some of the most obsessive, detailed reverence for the past is happening right now in Lucasfilm Animation.
Oh, without a doubt. We see that reverence perfectly realized in the Season 1 finale of Star Wars, Maul Shadow Lord.
Yes. Let's talk about episodes 9 and 10 of this season, because they delivered something fans have been debating in forums for literally decades.
It was a massive moment.
Creators Dave Filoni, Brad Rao, and Matthew Michnovetz finally pulled the trigger. They put Maul voiced with absolute menace by Sam Witwer, as always, in a room with Darth Vader.
And the brilliant twist there is that for the first time in his entire animated history, Maul is terrified.
Which is wild to see.
It is a masterful subversion. Audiences are completely conditioned to see Maul as the apex predator, right? He's the master manipulator who is always 3 steps ahead of everyone.
Right. Always so smug.
But director Brad Rao noted that putting true primal fear on Maul's face when he is confronted by Vader completely shatters that illusion.
It really establishes the hierarchy.
Exactly. Vader is essentially the devil of the Star Wars universe. This is a clash between 2 of Darth Sidious's apprentices. And as Michnovetz points out, the underlying tragedy of the finale is that Maul's entire criminal syndicate is ultimately dismantled by the very Sith system that forged him in the first place.
So tragic. But the finale also reveals that Maul hasn't just been playing gangster all season.
No, he's been busy.
Throughout the entire season, he's been secretly training a Jedi Padawan named Devon Nizara, who was played brilliantly by Gideon Adlon.
She is fantastic in the role.
And he isn't teaching her to be a Sith or a Jedi. He is creating this totally new, twisted hybrid style.
Yeah, it's very unique.
They even dropped this brutal tease for season 2. Devon is eventually going to discover that Maul was the one who betrayed and murdered her old master.
Oh, the dramatic irony there is thick enough to cut with a lightsaber.
It really is. It sets up an incredibly toxic, compelling master-apprentice dynamic for the future.
But what elevates the series isn't just the writing. It is how they are executing the visual storytelling.
Oh, we have to talk about the visuals.
To honor the tactile, physical filmmaking techniques of the 1970s original trilogy, visual effects director Joel Aron spearheaded a project to create a practical, physical miniature for a specific ship in Episode 8.
This is Reno Soul's cargo freighter, right?
Exactly, the casino owner.
This is where the craftsmanship borders on absolute madness for me.
It's unbelievable.
So the backstory here is that John Knoll, the legendary VFX supervisor, brought the physical miniature of the Razor Crest from the Mandalorian into Joel Aron's office a few years back.
Right.
And seeing that physical object sparked this intense desire to keep the art of practical miniatures alive, even in a fully computer-animated show.
Which is such a cool initiative.
So Aron actually carves the core hull of this new freighter out of dense foam. And then he starts the process of kit bashing.
Now, for anyone unfamiliar with the term, kit bashing is when model makers take pieces from commercial, off-the-shelf model kits and glue them together to create entirely new technological details on a ship.
Right. They take these little plastic pieces, often cutting them right off the sprues, which are those plastic grid frames that hold model parts together in the box, and they just repurpose them.
But the specific pieces Aron chose to glue to this foam hull are essentially a museum exhibit of Star Wars history.
Run us through some of the pieces because it's insane.
The pedigree of the parts is astonishing. So he used a section of a Saturn V rocket shell to construct the engine housing.
Okay, classic.
He adapted wheel mount flanges from a World War II-era Panzer tank model.
A Panzer tank?
Yep. He used tiny carburetor pieces from a 1932 Mercedes model kit.
Wait, tell them about the Mercedes kit.
Incredibly, that specific 1932 Mercedes kit is the exact same one the original Industrial Light and Magic model makers used to detail the Millennium Falcon back in 1977.
He is literally using the exact same plastic parts molded from the 1970s.
It's true lineage. He even integrated pieces from a Rebel snowspeeder, clamps from the Ghost ship from Star Wars Rebels, and elements of Prince Yuzor's Virago ship from the 1996 Shadows of the Empire toy line.
The nostalgia is off the charts.
He glues all of this onto a piece of foam, lights it practically in a dark room, and then composites that photography into a state-of-the-art computer-generated environment.
Okay, but I have to ask, why go to all that trouble when you have a warehouse full of incredible animators who could just draw a ship?
It really comes down to how the human brain processes light and texture.
Okay, how so?
When you light a physical object, even a piece of foam covered in plastic tank parts, the light bounces off the imperfections. The dust, the microscopic scratches in the paint.
Right, all the real-world flaws.
The human eye subconsciously recognizes that physical reality in a way that CGI, no matter how advanced, struggles to perfectly replicate. It grounds the animated universe in a tactile reality.
That makes perfect sense. And what's wild is that exact same philosophy of subconscious recognition was applied to the auditory experience of the series as well.
By the show's composers, yeah.
Right, the Kaider family,
Oh.
Kevin, Sean, and Dina. The music in Shadow Lord basically operates like a hidden narrator.
It really does. It's brilliant.
Kevin Kaider explained that when Maul first steps out of the shadows in this series, the composers took the legendary Duel of the Fates choir track and intentionally warped it.
They degraded the audio quality.
Yes, distorting the sound to subtly tell the audience that while this is the Maul you remember, he is operating in a deeply broken, degraded era of his life.
And the psychological manipulation of the music goes even deeper with the character of Devon Azara.
Tell us about that, because this blew my mind.
Sean Keeter revealed a brilliant trick they used regarding her musical theme. They actually took the second half of Maul's established musical motif and buried it inside the chord progression of Devon's theme.
It's exactly like a parent sneaking pureed vegetables into a kid's mac and cheese.
That is the perfect analogy.
Right. The audience is sitting there consuming this complex, twisted, master-apprentice dynamic, completely unaware that the musical score is feeding them the subtext.
Subconsciously digesting it.
When Maul and Devon are on screen together, their themes can play simultaneously and harmonize perfectly. It signals to your brain that these two characters are deeply intertwined, even if you don't consciously understand why the music sounds so right.
It's incredible. And they also layered in this pulpy film noir instrumentation specifically for the character of Detective Brander Lawson. It brings this gritty, hard-boiled detective flavor that still feels perfectly at home in the Star Wars universe.
Just masterfully done.
And, you know, that musical synthesis, perfectly mirrors everything we've uncovered today.
It really ties it all together.
Look at the sheer breadth of what Lucasfilm is managing right now. They are solving the massive logistical puzzle of getting 70,000 people into a physical building without abandoning families in the ticketing process.
Right.
They are transitioning a beloved television duo onto an IMAX screen to prepare a character for the next 50 years of stories.
Yep.
They are allowing animators to spend hours supergluing pieces of a Panzer tank to a foam block just to make the lighting look right.
The dedication is just unbelievable.
The current era of this franchise is entirely defined by a heavy, almost sacred responsibility to its own history. Every single creative and logistical choice is in a direct dialogue with the past.
It is a beautiful way to approach storytelling, I think. But it carries a tremendous burden. When your foundation is that revered by so many people, the pressure not to break it must be overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. Which leaves us with a vital question to consider as we hurtle toward the 2026 and 2027 milestones.
What's the question?
This universe relies heavily on the concept of passing the torch. Anakin trained Ahsoka, Din Djarin is raising Grogu, Maul is twisting Devin.
Right, the master and the apprentice.
At what point does this new generation finally outgrow the masters that shaped them?
Oh, wow.
Can a franchise built so heavily on nostalgia ever truly escape the massive shadow of the Skywalker era? Or is Star Wars destined to simply always rhyme with its own past?
Now that is a thought to chew on. Is the hyperdrive just spinning the same vintage parts, or are we actually jumping to new coordinates?
Time will tell.
Well, thank you for exploring the galaxy with us today on this episode of Star Wars Launchpad.
Yes, thank you for listening.
A massive thank you to our sponsor, Star Wars Escape Pod. And remember, if you weren't caught behind a digital stick person in a virtual queue today, make sure you secure your tickets for The Mandalorian and Grogu when it hits theaters in May 2026.
You won't want to miss it.
We will see you next time.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
This AI experimental show we call a Flashcast has been brought to you by the podcast Star Wars Escape Pod. With AI being harnessed in all things across the galaxy, this is just a fun way we've used it to bring some Star Wars joy, news, and headlines to you ad-free as always. Consider subscribing to this show for more. Follow our main podcast with humanoids only over at Star Wars Escape Pod. We're currently found on YouTube, X, and Blue Sky using the handle at SW Escape Podcast. Check the description for relevant links and the sources for your news this week. Consider dropping a kind review for the show, reviewing any important facts for yourself, and sharing this with a friend. We hope you enjoyed the episode. This is Star Wars Launchpad, signing off. May the Force be with you.